Okay, we are in for a long one, but trust me when I say these are all things that you will need to know for the gaslighting that is about to come our way. And the reason I say that is because the new property tax discussion will become data centers and how much our electricity bill will go up. And the reason why I bring a lot of this stuff up is because there's a lot of information that's come up in the last couple of days with the IURC. And I think it's important that we connect all the dots of kind of how we got here and what tactics the fraud administration will use against yours truly and all the regular folks of Indiana. So let's just get into it. So I'm sure you have all heard that Braun names the next top utility customer advocate. So this was announced the other day, but on the Indiana Utility Report, it was actually from last week. So I'm not exactly sure why they decided to wait a week to officially announce it, but we all knew a week ago that this was happening. So what do we know about Abby Gray? Well, she's been in the system for a long time. Senior Administrator for the Law Judge for the IURC, Executive Director Legal Operations for the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor, Consumer Counselor for the OUCC. Now, Nikki Kelly was on Robin and Casey the other day doing a fantastic job. My personal opinion is that she was keeping everybody calm on the whole situation. Yours truly, how would I handle the situation? Much more excitedly, because not exactly sure what to believe on her because of what has happened recently. Now, speaking of Nikki Kelly, Indiana Capital Chronicle posted this last week. Leslie Bonilla Muniz had an article. Indiana Appeals Court rules that regulators impermissibly let Duke raise rates for coal cleanup. Now, what happened here was that Duke Energy said, you know what, we got some coal cleanup to do because federally mandated. We're going to go through the IURC and we are going to ask for a rate hike so we don't have to pay for it. We want our ratepayers to pay for it. So it went through, but it was I think it was retroactive too. The court of this was the hikes for the cost incurred between 2015 and 2018 were considered illegal retroactive rate marketing right there. The Court of Appeals in 2023 also blocked Duke's separate attempt to recover costs from 2018 and 2019. Now, here's the most interesting part. Duke filed to recover about $88 million in costs incurred from 2019 through 2023, along with $238 million in projected spending between 2024 and 2030. So they were actually like trying to plan ahead. It's like, hey, you know what? We got some of this coal cleanup. Can we like get the money now? That would be really great. So Citizens Action Coalition, they found that the amended laws applied because the application was filed after effective date. Now, what they're talking about are two different laws that happened in 2023. So let's talk about what impermissibly applied means, because I had to go through ChatGPT. This is legal language that I don't know about. I'm just a sweet and cute little guy that tries to give you guys some information. So when a court law says impermissibly applied, it means that even if the law itself is valid, the way it was used in a particular case went beyond what the law allows. Now, what does this mean in the Duke Energy case? This is the fun part, boys and girls. This is the part that nobody's really talking about, and it's going to totally piss you off. Okay, so the amended legislation took effect on March 22nd, 2023. But the IURC allowed Duke to recover cleanup costs from 2019 to 2022, which predates the effective date. The appellate court held that applying the new law to those earlier costs was improper or impermissible because it retroactively changed the rules after the fact. Now, what happened in 2023? Well, in 2023, there were two bills, what is now known as Senate Enrolled Act 9 and House Enrolled Act 1417. The primary vehicle for Senate Enrolled Act 9 was pre-approval requirement was removed because now that we're all talking about data centers and how the rules are with the IURC, it's really important to understand of how things used to be and how things are now, and things that got really swept under the rug. But we're all paying attention now, and that's what matters. So how it used to be is like what Nikki Kelly was saying is like all these things have to be approved through the IURC, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. And They have to allow the utilities to raise rates to make some of their money back. Well, these two bills removed the pre-approval requirement, which means Duke could be like, hey, guess what? I'm just going to raise rates whether you like it or not because I don't need permission anymore. And so same thing with House Enrolled Act 1417. This act further reinforced the legislative response to court rulings that had restricted how utilities could recover cleanup costs related to coal cleanup. Very interesting, right? Because that's what Duke wanted. Hey, it's federally mandated to clean up all this coal, but Duke says, you know what? I don't want to clean it up. I don't want to have to pay for it. We want to make those greenbacks, all that De Niro. Why? And then I have to go through the IURC to even get approval? Nah. Hey, legislators. Hey, here's some greenbacks maybe your way. Let's try and get this legislation going on so we don't have to pay for it. And that's basically what happened. And boy, do you guys recognize some of these names right here? What do you see right here? Who was the sponsor on the House side? Edmund Soliday. So weird, right? Mr. Soliday, Mr. Edmund himself. And the other person who authored it, Eric Koch. Now, the two energy people that I have noticed this year, because this is the first year that I've ever paid attention to what's going on in the State House. With the energy stuff, it's going to be Eric Koch and Edmund Soliday. Those are going to be the two biggest players in the energy sector. Now, Senate Bill 9, which is now Senate Enrolled Act 9. Very interesting that there's a number that I always see. Now, in part 3 in the fiscal impact statement, specifies that recovery of the 80% of the IURC approved federally mandated costs that an energy utility may recover through a rate adjust mechanism that must commence to no earlier than blank. 80%. It is a fascinating number when you start connecting some of these energy bills that we've talked about before, but let's keep it going. Now, who voted no for this right here? The only Republican was Becky Cash. Totally based, by the way. Becky Cash comes in there in 2023 and says, no, I don't think we should have this bill. Her, along with all the Democrats, obviously, all voted no against it. In House Bill 1417, though, same thing. Guess who authored it? Ed Soliday. And who is the sponsor? Eric Koch. So when next year comes along with during the session and you start seeing these energy bills coming through, those are the two names that you are going to see. Make sure you pay attention to it. Same thing on here, but I wanted to show you who voted against it because that's the most important part. In the Senate, our favorite guy, king of the trust chart in the Senate, Mike Young. I almost said Tanya. Mike Young. And of course, all the Democrats voted against it. Oh, wait a minute. Also, Aaron Freeman. I forgot about that one. Aaron Freeman and Mike Young were the two only. I thought I saw Elting. Yeah, Elting was there. Okay, so there are three. Not bad, huh? Not bad. Is Becker a Republican? I don't know. But there are some Republicans that voted against it. Freeman would be top of the trust chart, but unfortunately, he's too connected with some very slimy people in Franklin Township. So right now, sorry, Aaron Freeman, and you endorse the wrong chair from Marion County. So bad Aaron Freeman. But Mike Young, top of the trust chart, of course, based Mike Young as usual. Those were the people that voted for it and voted against it for those bills. And so that allowed Duke Energy to say, you know what? I don't have to go through the IRC anymore. Now we can just charge it through the ratepayers. And so going back to that article, court said, actually, no, you can't. And you can't do it for the future anymore either. So that was pretty cool. I don't know what's going to happen off of this because this article did come out last week. So I do not know if we're going to be getting our money back or everything's just going to be locked in or Duke Energy. Good times though, right? All right. So moving on from that. That's kind of like where we're at right now, how we got here. HB 1007, this is the big one. This is the one that really confused me, and I found a very interesting note yesterday from an article, which I'm about to share. So HB 1007, which is now House Enrolled Act 1007. Actually, no, now that we're over here, let's see who voted no for it. All right, so did any Republicans vote no for it? No. What about senators? Oh, based Mike Young coming out of it. Let's go. Wow, Freeman? Really? Freeman, huh? And did too. You know, if you just didn't like endorse a bad candidate and then you weren't connected to such a sleazy person, you would be right next to Mike Young for my favorite. But and also Ron Alting. So Ron Alting, Aaron Freeman, Mike Young all voted against HB 1007. Cool. All right. So what does HB 1007 exactly do? So there's two elements to it, and in the 80% is what was really getting to me. So let's talk about the not the SMR part, but the other part. So what you always hear Mike Young talk about is, well, you know, we'll be able to those high load consumers will have to pay 80% of their share. Well, what exactly does that mean? Ben's Inkeep from the Citizens Action Coalition, he explained it very well. That it said if you could build a $10 billion power plant and maybe only 10% of that assigned to the data center, which would be a high load consumer, and then under this bill, which is HB 1007, 80% of that 10% would actually be paid by the data center. The other 20% basically is going to be going to the ratepayers. But the 90% is definitely going to be going to the ratepayers. So it's almost like the ratepayers are paying twice. Very funny, right? But not very funny. It's very sad. Of course, you know, Ed Soliday was he was the guy behind this one. Ed Soliday, and look at everybody that co-authored this thing too. These are the people that we have to watch out for. All right, all these people: Schockweiler, Pressel, Jake Teshka, Bruce Borders, JD Prescott, and guess who sponsored it? Eric Koch, of course. The two guys, let's see, Chris Jeter. I mean, I have my definitely had Danny Lopez, of course. I mean, it's all the who's of scumbags for sure. Hey, Craig Haggard. Oh man, you can't even make this up. All right, so the other element of it was for the small modular reactors. Now, we all know, I've been saying it for a long time from the rooftops, screaming it at the clouds like an old man. These is unproven technology. Sure, they're in nuclear subs, but do you see them done commercially? Plus, are you going to be going down to a Lowe's or a Menards and saying, hey, boys, can I get myself an SMR? No, these things are like the size of Walmart's anyway. And everybody, like Beckwith, like Haggard, like Braun, talking about, well, you know what? They were in nuclear subs. Okay, well, where are they now? They've been around for 50 years, and nothing is there right now. The only two places that have it are Russia and China. And China's building like a coal plant every day and a half. So it shows that we're not there right now. Now, the SMR stuff is that the utility to look into basically building an SMR. I'm not going to go into the weeds about it. They can do the research, they can do the designing, they can buy equipment, they can do all the stuff, and then they can be like, nah, you know what? Actually, it's too expensive. And automatically, without even putting a single shovel in the ground, they get 80% of their money back. Yeah. And the other 20%, it has to go through the IURC, so they then the ratepayers can pay for it. So there's a chance they can do all the stuff, spend all that money, and then they can recover at a minimum 80% of it, possibly 100% of it. So when I talk about this Abby person, Abby Gray, being the consumer counselor, I don't know much about her. And from what I keep hearing, this stuff is basically a drop in the bucket. I don't know if it's true, but it's definitely something that we need to be aware of. And, you know, I had to double check. I had to triple check. I had to make sure that everything that I was going to be explaining to you tonight on this video is true. So I had to go through a little chat GPT just to make sure. The same thing right here. Suppose a coal plant costs $1 billion. A data center signs up to take 10% of the plant's capacity and output. Under HEA 1007, the data center would need to cover at least 80% of its proportional share of cost. 10% of the 100 million share, 80% of that 80 minimum paid directly by the data center. The remaining 20% share can be spread across all ratepayers, but the other 90%, yeah, It's definitely getting paid by the ratepayers. This is why this is all alarming. There are basically two bills that are totally going to hose us over, SB1 and HB 1007. Those have basically destroyed us. There's SB, I think it's 425 or 424, but it takes away the local control if somebody wants to put an SMR there. And I'm serious about that. Person utility wants to put an SMR in a community, there's no local control at all. You can't have any public statement. You can't get any public approval. It's just like, nope, this is doing it. I don't care. Go eat it. Kick rocks if you want. Now, during that whole 2023, or when the IURC approved Duke Energy to do that rate hike, I was curious of who was part of the IURC at the time. Now, everybody there right now, I think there were two people that were not there. I forgot who it was. But the two people that were there, one of them was David Ober. Former state rep David Ober, allegedly like the youngest guy that was there at the time. Well, then he ended up leaving for the Indiana Chamber. Now, I don't think this is actually connected, to be honest with you, because I'm like, all right, did they catch wind, or like, all right, well, I'm out of here, so I don't have to worry about any of this? No, I think he's just another lobbyist shill, basically. Indiana Chamber of Commerce has hired former state legislator and current IURC commissioner David Ober to join his lobbying team, and then he ended up stepping down like a month later. It might have been because of conflict of interest. I don't know. I'm just saying what happened. I don't think there's anything sketchy, but I don't like lobbyists, obviously. I can't stand them. I hate them. I don't know which one I hate worse, lawyers or lobbyists. And then the other one was Stephanie Kravda. She was stepping down from the IURC as well. She was appointed, I think she was appointed by, I'm not sure who she was appointed by, but it doesn't really matter. But those were the only two. So the other three were part of it. Now, Chairman Houston, he is stepping down. I think he's stepping down at the end of the year. Or is it Ziegler? There's like two or three of them that are stepping down, which I thought was very, very interesting. There's like, because we all know how this works, right? Like, new administrations coming in, the governor gets to appoint these people. And what did we see with the IEDC? He said, you know what? Braun was like, your service is no longer required. Let me bring in my own shady characters, which exactly what he did. And what was the first thing that they did? They approved tax incentives for 4 data centers. Hey, thanks, Braun. Thanks, buddy. So from Hannah News, shout out Hannah News. We made a post on Indie Reporter about how we've been trying to get a subscription to Hannah News. They messaged us immediately trying to solve this whole thing. So they were able to give me the most recent one, which was perfect timing, by the way. And so I'm going to be paying for Hannah News. This is going to be a game changer for Indie Reporter, because I'm just reading this one thing. There is so much information on this. I kind of compared to IBJ. You know, I'm not a big fan of these media outlets at all, because we know how they like to shift the narrative. And you guys all know, Indie Reporter, we don't shift nothing. We just tell you how it is. But we just want the facts, okay? That's all we want. And so far, looking at Hannah News, I like it. You know what? I like it. I like it a lot. I will gladly give you my money so I could subscribe to it. I look forward to talking to you in the very near future. But this is the most important part right here of this that caught my attention right here. We're picking up some preliminary whispers about a major potential push by the Broad administration to consolidate assorted energy-related functions, including the IURC and the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor, both of which will be under new leadership in the second half of 2025, and a new regulatory framework that would be overseen by the Secretary of Energy, Susie Jaws. So weird. And her de facto category co-leader, former Senator John Ford. Both are former coal industry officials. This new entity would would, we are hearing, have as a key mandate the lowering of utility bills for Hoosier consumers. And then Braun comes out and says, hey, you know what? We got to do something. It's getting out of control. And he's trying to figure a way out of how to figure out this, how they're going to lower consumers' pricing for utility rates. Now, why is this important? Because you're all thinking, it's like, why is this important? Why does this matter to me? Because of Susie Jaws and John Ford. Now, these people I do not like at all, especially John Ford. That guy is the worst. All right, so when we talk about SMRs and I talk about how they're unproven technology, one of the things that I have talked about a lot was there was a project that happened in Idaho, and there's just this promising project. Remember, you're going to be seeing articles everywhere about, hey, you know what? We got an SMR right around the corner. It's like, all right, well, you know, when the light switch comes on, then I'll excited. But until then, shut up. I don't want to hear about it. Now, what happened in Idaho was that there was an SMR that never got fully built, and it was because of multiple problems. One, it was taking too long. Two, it was being too expensive. And three, there were not enough people that were signing up for it. And four, it ended up costing more per megawatt than coal. Because what's the whole goal here, right? We want something clean, we want something efficient, and we want something that's not going to cost us too much. Now, but we all know there's a but. The people running the show want to make sure they get their money. Remember, there's no free lunch, boys and girls. Now, what happened? The biggest case in the NuScale, remember that company, NuScale in Utah, tied to the Utah Associated Municipal Power, Municipal Power Systems. NuScale proposed a 12 modular SMR project at the Idaho National Laboratory. Dozens of small utilities, including some in Utah and surrounding states, signed on, with customers already paying into planning costs through their electric bill. Hey, does that sound familiar? By 2023, the projected cost per megawatt hour had nearly doubled. Major participants like Logan, Utah, pulled out. In late 2023, the project was canceled outright. You ready? Hundreds of millions of dollars in development costs had already been spent, and much of what that was recovered from the customers. Where are we hearing about that right now? HB 1007, 80% without even sticking a shovel in the ground, and they recover 80% of their money by the ratepayers, even though no reactor was ever built. Example, in Utah, local utility boards had to vote to raise rates or absorb sunk costs after pulling out. This SMR cautionary tale: ratepayers funded years of development and licensing work, but in the end, no power plant. So what does that tell you and me? They already know that this might be a failure. They already know that ratepayers funded this whole thing, and they didn't even get anything out of it. Hey, thanks for the high electricity bills, boys and girls, but no SMR for you. Now, why did I bring up NuScale? By the way, there's the project right now. Just type in Idaho's SMR project canceled. I think it started in like 2019, and they were bragging about it. In fact, they even used the same picture. Now, why do I bring up NuScale? Why is this important? Well, who did I just talk about? Susie Jaws. Guess who was an energy consultant for during that time? From June of 2021 to January of 2024. And when did this project get canceled? 2023. And whose project was it? It was NuScale. And who was an energy consultant? I'm not saying that she was part of that project, but she was certainly part of NuScale during that time. Our own Secretary of Energy and Natural Resources, Susie Jaws, former primary candidate for state rep I was going to say as usual. Who would have thought? And she has a lot of energy experience, you know, part of MISO, part of NuScale. She was part on the Trump team. She was the chief of staff, senior advisor, nuclear energy for the U.S. Department of Energy for a few years. So, you know, I listened to all of her public hearing during the session, and Democrats were basically hammering her. asked him, it's like, well, what's gonna happen, if it doesn't work? Like, are we on the hook? Like, and can you show us where one's working? Because this is the whole argument with data centers as well. You're putting the cart before the horse. Like, what are we doing? We're going to be funding all this and we don't even have a chance of getting anything out of it, because that's what HB 1007 does. All right, so this is where I talk about John Ford. Real quick, we're already going pretty late on this thing. Mike Braunich points John Ford and Alan Morrison to highly influential positions. Now, this is from Terre Haute Vice News, where nothing is off limits, apparently. Well, good for them. I'm proud of them. Someone sent his article over, and I thought this was fascinating, because I knew about John Ford, but I didn't know anything about Alan Robinson. So they talk about the carbon sequestration project, which if you go to Ben Verbanek, he has done amazing work on covering Wabash Valley Resources, the carbon sequestration project. A lot of great information coming from him. But they point out that Alan Morrison was appointed to the new head of the Department of Natural Resources, and John Ford was announced as the new head of Office Energy Development. Each of the appointments and connections to the pilot project, which is the carbon sequestration in Vigo and Vermilion counties. Wabash Valley Resources also made its appearance in the Wabash Valley in 2016. Why is this important? Well, because they were both got money from Wabash Valley. Next element, which I just found out this week. I know, I'm very excited about this. All right, so Alan Morrison, which, by the way, he doesn't bring up in his LinkedIn. Oh, I don't even have all the tabs ready. That's okay. Alan Morrison is LinkedIn. He never mentions this part, that he has a nonprofit. Nonprofit called the National Coal Community Center Incorporated. Now, one could argue that this is basically a coal lobby. I don't know if that's what it is. I know it's a nonprofit, and I know a lot of these lobby stuff are part of it. He also has a consulting service. Now, you can always put the tinfoil hat on and then say, you know what? Maybe these things are connected. Maybe they're not. But who could say? I'm not going to say anything, because there's already enough people suing each other right now, and I don't need any of that garbage. All right, so this was what was, funny, one could say. Now, if you go into the National, what was it called again? National Coal Community Center. They go into their website, you'd ask them about it, and there's Alan Morrison, Executive Director of the National Coal Community and Triple C. Now, what's interesting, this is where it gets really fun. What's interesting, go into their website and you see who's their members. Thrive National, Indiana's Building Trade, ISPTA, and Reliable Energy. Now, who was John Ford left his senator position to go become president of Reliable Energy, the same one of the members that's part of the NCCC, the same place that Alan Morrison is, you can say, governing person, right? Oh, and by the way, guess who the registered agent is? Chris Jeter and Masalani Manihani. They're part of it. Go figure, right? Go figure. It's all connected. It's all connected, as usual. All right, so, and then John Ford left. He left Reliable Energy to become the executive director of Indiana Office and Energy Development. You want me to throw one more funny thing in there? So, guess who is the current president? Savannah Kernstein. Savannah Kernstein used to be used to help Jefferson Shreve when he was running for mayor in 2023. I think she was like a political director or something like that. Funny how it's all connected, right? So when you see usually when you see a picture with Shreve, you're going to see a picture with her, which I've talked about a bunch of times. All right, so this is the Ben Verbanek article too, when he talks about anti-carbon sequestration advocates speak out of NRC advances. Now, what's really funny about that is like the people from Wabash Valley, they came out for the public hearing. All right, just to get everybody's opinion on it, and nobody wanted it. And the guy that was there to talk about it, he was like, "Well, it's kind of too bad it's happening anyway." I mean, that thing got pushed so far, unbelievable. So, are you guys understanding the picture? This is all the gaslighting that they're going to get to you. This is the example that I'm giving to you of how all this connected. I do not like the idea of this consolidation. I don't think things are going to get better anytime soon, especially with the data centers. We know that they're unproven technology. There is one thing that I want to point out, though, is there's a data center in Ohio, and there was a bill, I think. And yeah, here it is. So on datadynamics.com, there was the regulators approved construction of a 200 megawatt gas power plant to serve at Meta New Albany data center, slated for completion at the end, towards the end of next year. Now, when I looked up, like, Virginia has hundreds of data centers. Not all of them are hyperscale, but this is going to be it. Natural gas, I think, is going to be the only way that they are going to be able to power this stuff, because we know all the, the green people, the fear-mongering climate change people, they're going to be like, "Oh, my coal, please don't. Oh, let's go to something clean." And my argument is, hey, you know what? I've gone up 65. I've seen the windmills. Are you telling me that that area has lower utility rates than the rest of us that are on coal or natural gas? Because if that's true, then I will sign up for it. But I guarantee you that it's not. Now, the other problem is that we talk about is solar panels, and we have all these utility solar fields that are happening. Well, guess what? They're all getting paid by the taxpayers too. These things cannot survive unless it's subsidized. You can make an argument for SMRs as well. This is why we need, the only way to fight any of this is that we have to get loud, not just in social media, but we also have to get loud. And anytime that there is a public statement or a debate, or anytime that the utility companies come out, data centers, etc. There is a little bit of black pilling, though. A lot of these local areas do not care. Franklin Township, you saw the Civic Lead. They're like, "Oh yeah, you know what? Data center, sure, why not?" You're seeing people in Fort Wayne and LaPorte. I think there's the one in South Bend. All these local areas, they seem to not care, and they're just getting, one could say, propagandized, or just saying, "Hey, guess what? This is happening. This is the best you're gonna get. Work with me, or we're gonna try and do something to you." Like what we saw with Ed Saladay when he talked about the mayor from Portage, when he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna do my hardest to make sure that you guys don't get any extra money." We're hearing that from a state rep, the same state rep that's authoring a lot of these energy stuff. We just have to be aware about it. You have to be smart about it. But the best thing that you can do is go on social media and call them out. Because there is the thing that these legislators, all these elected officials hate, is that they hate being criticized. They hate being made fun of on social media, because the internet lasts forever. Hopefully this made a whole lot of sense. If not, you know what? I'm sure I'll make another video, or just message us. All right. Until then, love you guys. Bye.